As we have noted a time or two, this administration seems to be in the habit of breaking norms and protocols. But Washington Post columnist Max Boot puts it in more drastic terms. He writes, quote, "The real national emergency isn't at the border, it's in Washington. Trump is trashing the rule of law to stay in power. And the very same Republicans who excoriated President Barack Obama for his supposed misuse of executive power are meekly going along." On that note, we are joined tonight by two of the most widely read authors of our age, our NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. His latest work is called Presidents of War. And Pulitzer Prize-winning author and historian Jon Meacham is here. His newest work, because it's been a few weeks, co-authored with Tim McGraw, I guess we can expect a project with Yanni next, is Songs of America, out on June 11th. And full disclosure, I enjoyed a meal with these two gentlemen here in New York City tonight. Welcome. Thank you both for coming on. Jon, before we veer into country music, I'll start with you. Yesterday alone, a purge at the Department of Homeland Security and orders apparently from the administration to tell folks to go ahead and break laws if they've come up against resistance. As I always ask you, what is happening right now as we watch?
Well, it's a rolling Saturday Night Massacre at this point. And you have, to me, one of the things that I haven't heard many people comment on is, if you believe in the mission of the Department of Homeland Security, aren't we reaching a point where our Homeland Security now is in danger because the people charged with executing the defense are not in place?
It's a pretty important cabinet department.
Created in the wake of the deadliest day in American history, created to, and having, knock on wood, praise the Lord, wherever you stand on the spectrum, whatever you want to say, remarkably successful. And right now, because of this, I would argue, largely manufactured crisis at the border, we now have we're in a position where the people charged with our safety are missing because the president is using this as an ideological paintball field as opposed to taking it seriously.
Michael, we often cover these events as the shiny object of the day because the ongoing, to coin a phrase, narrative of this administration has been the Russia investigation, something we deal with here every night. But the shiny objects suddenly become history over time, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do, and especially if, God forbid, they result in a catastrophe. And one of the shiny objects that's a consistent pattern, but we've seen it a lot the last really week, is this president's unbelievable disrespect for the rule of law, which again, especially in the Republican Party, is very much out of the pattern of history. You know, I always used to think that Richard Nixon was a one-time fluke. He considered something called the Houston Plan in 1970 to combat his domestic political enemies, people who were against the Vietnam War, with illegal mail ordering openings and domestic surveillance and burglaries, and actually, approved burglaries and some other things that led to the Watergate scandal. But much of what we've seen from Donald Trump over the last 2 years has a very great potential to put Watergate in the shade.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.